Unexpected WWE superstars are getting pushes after WrestleMania. We're going to talk about some names and some tag teams reuniting. Also, we got some big news surrounding AEW and other WWE stories. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button. This way you never miss it. Our first story of the day, we're going to kick things off with some AEW stuff. More specifically, Jim Ross talking about his disappointment in the fact that A&E, their documentary on Jerry Lawler, did not feature Jim Ross's comments in the entire documentary. So for those who don't know, Jim Ross was talking on the Grilling JR podcast, and it was basically brought up that, during this taping for the documentary, he offered tons of comments. He was actually kind of interested to see what made the cut, what was edited in, what was edited out. He said he actually really enjoyed the documentary as well, but he was disappointed that he was cut out of it. He said he didn't make the edit as far as making a comment because, well, he said he knew he was interviewed and he gave them plenty of comments, but the decision was made somewhere along the way to not use me, or to use him, I should say. He did say that a couple different things about Lawler and Austin, and just basically like he knows obviously he was in those situations calling these big matches and stuff because obviously he lived through it. But now A&E's documentary doesn't actually represent that. And I can understand why Jim Ross would be upset. I also think as somebody who is, I think a lot of people want credit for the type of work that they do. And Jim Ross is in a situation where he's working for the competitor. But realistically, I think Jim Ross working for the competitor shouldn't be a big deal being in a documentary. And I don't even know if it really has anything to do with it because Saraya is literally in AEW, but A&E did the documentary on Page. So ultimately, I find it really hard to believe that A&E or WWE had some sort of persuasion that they didn't want Jim Ross in it. But who knows? It could be a very tricky situation. I just thought it was a very interesting topic. And as always, I think Jim Ross is incredibly talented. It would have been nice to see him stay with WWE, but also at the same time, too, he did give a lot of credibility to AEW by becoming a commentator for them. So ultimately, not really bothered by his decision to go there, but maybe that could be one of the reasons why he didn't make the final cut. Guys, I want to talk to you about Bray Wyatt. Some very interesting stuff about Bray Wyatt has obviously been talked about this past week, especially as we gear towards WrestleMania. Who really knows what's going to happen here with Bray Wyatt? And I'll be the first one to tell you that there are so many question marks. However, the one thing that is very interesting is the Twitter account Worked Wrestling, who has broken tons of stories as of late, dropped some major news that WWE will be implementing some sort of glitches or QR codes this week, or maybe even both. Now, we did see Bray Wyatt be heavily influenced in backstage segments prior to his debut with the QR codes, and it created this really big mystery about Bray Wyatt. And then 2 weeks ago on SmackDown, we saw LA Knight while he was walking backstage. We saw the Bray Wyatt logo popped up. But keep in mind, we haven't seen Bray Wyatt. We haven't seen Uncle Howdy prior to WrestleMania. The whole story was him going after Lashley or Lesnar, and then he got pulled from TV. So whatever is the reason that's keeping him from TV could be the reason why he may or may not be on WrestleMania. Yet, if they are doing something with QR codes and glitches, then in my opinion, maybe this was always the plan. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but just imagine a situation where WWE is like, look, like we don't know what to do with Bray Wyatt. We don't know what to do with the Hurt Business. We are expecting the Hurt Business to be together prior to WrestleMania with Omos. Don't know how accurate that is, but there is a possibility that the big reveal could be happening on Raw on March 27th. So if that is in fact the case, if the Hurt Business is reuniting and Lashley, LA Knight are involved with the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, then maybe Bray Wyatt comes out and does something for WrestleMania without necessarily having to wrestle a match. Who knows? Or maybe that's where we get the new Wyatt 6 family that I talked about in a previous video. This is why you guys don't want to miss videos. We got big stuff coming every single day. Guys, by the way, there's more plans for WWE. In this case, WWE possibly bringing back DIY. This is actually not unheard of. In fact, if you guys watch my videos about 8 or 9 months ago, we actually spoke about Johnny Gargano potentially coming to the WWE again on the main roster. And with Ciampa and Gargano being together, WWE and more specifically Triple H would probably like to use them together because it's really difficult with such a crowded roster to use them as singles guys going after singles belts. And you got to remember, Ciampa was brought up to the main roster long before Johnny Gargano returned to the company. Vince McMahon was still running the company in terms of creative. And then, of course, we saw a very interesting thing happen with Ciampa because he was paired with Miz, but then he was, injured. So, look, if WWE is bringing back DIY, I 1,000% support this move. We all know that Triple H has a very stacked tag team division on paper, but we got to get through the bloodline stuff first, and that's how we're going to do it. And I'm going to assume, and this is just me making a very educated guess, my guess is that Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens aren't going to be tag team champions or undisputed tag team champions for long. They might be carrying one of the titles, but I think WWE could be in a situation where they actually pull apart the undisputed portion of it, and then we'll go back to having Raw and SmackDown tag team champions. Or we do know about those new titles that could potentially be revealed. Maybe WWE keeps it unified under one title belt. Who knows? We don't know exactly for sure, but DIY coming back would make sense. I would say if this were to happen, stay tuned for after WrestleMania, because it would make sense. It could be a big surprise for Raw and SmackDown. We know Triple H is loading up on those surprises. This would be one, I think, that is widely accepted by the fan base. And, you know, I think Johnny Gargano and Ciampa, their main roster stint wasn't even bad. I just think the audience needs time to get used to them and take notice to them and stuff. So it's WWE's job to explain who they are. It's WWE's job to explain the history. I don't think Gargano and Ciampa should immediately be a tag team right off the rip. I think there should be some storytelling there. But as always, storytelling is what gets people drawn in. This could be the thing that helps them and takes them to the next level. Guys, and this is not the only time that we're going to be talking about other stars getting pushes. You might remember Mustafa Ali for a while was losing matches, and a lot of people were wondering what was going on with this. Why is this the case? WWE is going to have Mustafa Ali versus Seth Rollins on Raw March 27th. That is the reported plan. However, according to Worked Wrestling, again, another big tweet, Ali is being planned to gain some steam over the next few weeks and get a bigger spotlight following WrestleMania. Now, we've actually heard that Mustafa Ali, under Triple H, was supposed to get a big push. These are the rumors and the things that are being talked about on the internet, but it would make sense that Triple H and the WWE have a hard time pushing Ali prior to WrestleMania. And that's not an excuse for WWE, but there was so many things going on going into WrestleMania that realistically, just randomly pushing somebody, it doesn't work out that way. Now the fans are seeing Mustafa Ali lose so many times. Let's use this to spark a new character, and then over time, fans will kind of get bought in. Everything that I talk about, it's about process, right? You can't do something once and expect it to blow up. The whole thing with Sami Zayn and the Bloodline did not happen magically overnight. Through weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks of content, then people were able to get bought in every single week. That's what you need to do. You need to replicate that process with every single individual. It doesn't have to be as deep and as in-depth as the Bloodline, but every single week, this development of a character or a storyline is what gets people bought in. And I think that right there is going to be what helps sell, the Garganos and the Bronson Reeds and the Mustafa Alis and all the other guys who desperately need those big moments, those big stories. I want to know what you guys think. Obviously, some big things to expect after WrestleMania. Don't forget the Angle Show live all throughout the week. Going to keep you guys updated along the way. Thank you for watching.